Shemot, right before Vayera, this week's parasha, we saw it ends up that everyone has a Tanakh. And Moshe tells Paro, taking the Jews out, let my people go. And Paro sees, you guys are complaining, you have time to, let's get you make the work even harder. So Moshe returns to Hashem and says, my Lord, why have you done evil to this people? Why have you sent me? Lama harayot ramazeh. Chapter 5, the last verse, 5:22. He says, why you made things worse? Since, from the time I came to Paro to speak in your name, you did evil to this people. And you didn't rescue this people. You told me I'll send you to make the redemption, to send you to save the Jewish people. And since I started my job here, things have, not only that it hasn't taken place immediately, so that we learned, right? The redemption comes stage by stage, slowly, developmental process. So that maybe Moshe Rabbi knew. Okay, it's not immediate, not right away. But here what? It was even worse than it was before. Since I came, it got worse. Right? It didn't give them the straw to give that, to go find the straw and make the bricks. And then Hashem says, I'll show you what's going on here. It's deeper than you thought. You can think that things are going backwards, they're in the wrong direction, but actually Hashem works in all these ways to bring about, like the Ramchal says in Dat Funot, that even when it looks like the world is abandoned and things are going bad and wrong, I think he says there, the Ramchal, that that's the only time that, and he talks about Yaakov, he also says this wording, Lama Harayota, why did you do bad for me? About Yaakov, when he says, why have you made things bad? And he says, I'm sending you down, I'm preparing the redemption for the Jewish people. And Yaakov has to go down to Egypt and all the things that take place, and he thinks it's bad, a catastrophe, what's taking place. And Hashem says, the Ramchal says how this is, you might think things are going bad, and this is the only time that Yaakov said something maybe improper, but in vain, so to speak. And also Moshe Rabbeinu here, that he says, Lama Harayota, why have you done things bad? It doesn't seem to go according to the plan, even against the plan. Like today, things are going on, and it seems like things are abandoned, but that's when you know that Hashem is working behind the scenes. And here Hashem tells him, Hashem now in our parsha tells him the plan, at the end of the parsha of Shemot. Now I'll show you. You'll see what I'm going to do to Paro. And now in our week's parsha, it starts off with this. Hashem revealing himself to Moshe, gives him the name of Hashem. And then he says, and now I'll give you the plan of redemption that's going to take place. So if you see in chapter 6, verse 6 through 8. I wanted to make a sheet, but you have it in front of you. That's the original source. Therefore, say to the children of Israel, Hashem will take you out. In Hebrew, it's so much different. The languages of redemption, what they're called. I will take you out from under the burdens of Egypt. Vitzalti, I will save you, rescue you from their service. Another stage, and I will redeem you with an outstretched arm with the great judgments. And then I will take you out to be my people, I shall be a God to you, and you shall know me. And then I will bring you to the land which I promised to give to Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, the land of Eretz Yisrael. So here we have these languages, these stages of redemption that, again, like it's in Hebrew, the famous, the Votzeti, Vitzalti, Vigalti, Vilakakti, Veveti, the actually 5, when he comes to culmination, coming back to Eretz Yisrael. The Malbim explains each stage as, again, there are unique stages. The Malbim delineates, so to speak, that the first stage, I'll take you out of the suffering of the hard work. And once the plague started, the hard work stopped. But there was still working for Paro. V'tzalta, I will save you. That is from saving you from work. After the plague of the Bechorot, the firstborn, then all the servitude stayed. Now they were free. And they went and they left Egypt. But it wasn't still the full redemption. Now they're free, they're independent, they're no longer slaves, no longer working. But that's still not the final redemption. Because they still chased them, right? The Egyptians were out chasing them. They ran away and they found them at the sea. And then it says, Galti, I will redeem you. And that's when they all drowned and they got the punishment measure for measure. The Egyptians drowned in the sea. And that's the stage of what they're called Galti, that's the redemption. And then I took you to be unto me a people. That is the receiving of Torah, the Malbim explains. Now we received our goal, our direction, our purpose in life, how to live our lives according to and manifest this divine ideal. And the culmination, the full completion of that goal is revealed when we come to Eretz Yisrael. I'll bring you to Eretz Yisrael. So here we see that there's two main stages, you could call it. The first is the physical freedom, like we learned about in other sources, Yechezkel 36, 37. But here we see it already here in the first redemption. The first stage being the physical freedom, the physical redemption, taking away out of the slavery and freedom, leaving Egypt, and then the spiritual, receiving the Torah and coming in the Mishkan, the Shekhinah, the divine presence upon the Jewish people. In the book of Shemot, we have the Parshat Trumot, when the V'shachanti betocham, I shall dwell in your midst, the Shekhinah amongst us. So to the Ramban, in his introduction to the book of Shemot, Nachmanides, explains how the redemption, it says the same thing, the redemption is not complete when we just leave Egypt and we're no longer slaves. That's it, we're finished. Now we got what we want, independent, no longer slavery. But the redemption, he says, is not complete until you come back to your full status, physical and in the land, or in your spiritual status, and the spiritual content, and back to the land of Israel. And that, he says, is later, like I said before, the receiving of the Torah and the Shekhinah, the divine presence that dwells among the Jewish people from the time of the Mishkan, later the Beit HaMikdash, and the culmination in Eretz Yisrael. Because Am Yisrael's mission in the world is indeed to bring this divine ideal, this divine good, to creation, to sanctify God's name. It says in the Midrash Hagadol, Rav Drukman brings down, the Midrash Hagadol, our sages say, I took you to be my people. I think one of the wordings we said are these languages of redemption. I took you to be my people, and I will be unto you a God. Almanat Kain, in order that, this is again the Midrash Gadol, it's one of the Midrashim we have from Chazal, our sages. I take you to be my people. How do you say Almanat Kain? In order that, for this purpose, do I take you out of Egypt, in order that you should accept my kingdom, and to katshu shmi ba'arabim, and to manifest my name, to sanctify my name in the world. In other words, to bring this light, this divine good, to all of creation. You are the vehicle that I created to bring my name, this good, this ideal, this connection of God to what we call our world. Like it says in Yeshayahu 43:21, you all know by heart already. Amzu yitzarti li tilati saperu yafeh. This nation have I created unto me to say my name. Rav Kook used to repeat this to Rav Tziyuda. There's a divine creation. It's not a volunteer. There's a club, a group that got together and says, I like this idea. I'll volunteer to be the nation of God, to bring His word to the name, to connect this world, Hashem to this world. God created this vehicle. He created everything with a certain function. It's like different instruments to the orchestra, the symphony. And God created so to speak, I don't want to call it the conductor. There's an aspect that it's a conductor. He organizes all the different instruments to work in harmony and perfection. But the truth is, it's not on that level. Just like the Kuzari brings down from the Chazal, the sages, the Zohar says how the Am Yisrael is like the heart of the nations, right? The second section of the Kuzari. So the heart is what gives life and direction and meaning and purpose and to all the other limbs. Rav Kook says it's even another dimension, actually, because the heart is still one of the limbs. It's in this world. It's more important. It's the central life-dependent organ, but it's still, so to speak, on the same plane. But the higher, the truer image maybe is like the neshama of creation. It's the life source, it's the neshama. It's not from this world, it's something beyond this world that comes into this world to raise this world beyond this world. It's not in this world and now is the central organ or the conductor. That's also true. But it's why is he a conductor? Because it's from this divine essence, the source of Am Yisrael emanates from the rabbis talk about the highest level of divinity, let's call it, of the attachment to Hashem, like it says in Dvarim chapter 32. Chelek Hashem Ami. This nation is my nation is my portion. The portion of God is his nation. It's his portion of God. It's not a chunk, physical chunk, right? It's this godliness that is thrown into this world. But it doesn't start from this world. It's not the formation of nations that get together and common history, common language, common culture, and then you have a nation, right? But you have also the rise and fall of nations. But like we've seen the different nations that different non-Jews that point out that the nation of Israel doesn't follow the laws of the rise and fall of nations, of history. Mark Twain, right, the famous thing, and the Jews everything is mortal but the Jew. What is the secret of his mortality? Tolstoy, the Jews are the emblem of eternity. Anyway, a lot of non-Jews that point out that the Jewish history doesn't follow the usual rules because it doesn't start from this world. It's not something from this world that the teeth of time, Shinei Zman, that act upon it. That it's not from this dimension. It's from another world, literally from that divine, from beyond this world that comes into this world to elevate this world. Like we say at the end of every prayer, and Aleinu l'shabach l'taken olam b'malchut Shaddai, to fix this world under God's kingdom, to link up this world. There's something, you need an Archimedes point, like from outside the world. How can you pick up the world? You can't pick up yourself. You need an Archimedes, right, a point outside to lift up. There's a point from outside the world, so to speak, that comes into this world to raise this world, literally, that has the power to change this world, not according to the system, not better within the system. Less war, less suffering, less evil. It's also good. But it's something even beyond that, where we're taking the world not just better the way it is in the system, to raise the whole system, to raise what according to what God had planned from the beginning. But nevertheless, that's a lot to talk about. But our goal of Tikkun Olam is much, again, more beyond any dreams of human speculation of utopia that we can dream of. Because we only have what we understand is based on what we have today. And to make it better, to get rid of the evil, put it on the side, but to get rid of death, immortality, that the connection of beyond space and the time. These are things that we can't even dream of. We think we can't even have. But that's where Hashem is, what the prophets talk about, right? They'll eradicate death from the world. There'll be no more death. Because you're so attached to the source that there's no, again, the physicality that usually decays and rots. That's not where we're coming from. The source of what we're connecting to Hashem, that is, again, beyond those limitations. And that's the blessing that Am Yisrael brings to the world. But that takes place when Am Yisrael is in its place, functioning in its full totality of a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. Like it says before the Ten Commandments, right? Chapter 19 in Shmot, you will be unto me, Atem tiyuli mamlechet kohanim v'goy kadosh. You'll be unto me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. A nation, physical nation, government, army, and all that is holy. All that show and links and connects, literally manifests holiness, godliness, goodness, morality, the true, divine good and justice in this world that connects this world and beyond this world. It connects the taken olam b'malchut Shaddai, to fix this world according to the divine. What do we say according to the Ashkenazic in Kedusha, in the repetition of the Amidah? Nikadesh et Nikdusha, right? Oh, you're Ashkenazi, you say that? Okay, you don't say that, right? You say Ashkenazi. Nikadesh et shimcha ba'olam, kishem shemak tishim. We will sanctify your name in the world, just like the angels do. The angels do, they recognize the divine and declare his goodness and truth. They recognize there's no obstacle, there's no barriers between them, so to speak, and this divine truth. But we live in the world, what's called Alma de Shikra, the world of falsehood. It's concealed. The divine, the truth, the absolute good is concealed. Our goal is to reveal it, to expose it. And so we sanctify in this world, in the world where it's not so clear, in this world, the divine good, the absolute good, like the angels do in the above heavenly abode. But nevertheless, to bring about that divine ideal, it says you have the Tanakh in Yeshayahu chapter 11. That's why I wanted you to have a Tanakh with a few sources. I mean, it's endless, but just a few things here. In chapter 11 in the Yeshayahu about the Messianic era, about the Mashiach. In verse number 1, a staff will emerge from the stump of Jesse. I don't know, in English it's Yetzachoter migeza Yishai, right? From the Yishai, the father of David. He'll be a staff, a continuation, a descendant. The spirit of Hashem will rest upon him, a spirit of wisdom and understanding, a spirit of counsel and strength, a spirit of knowledge and fear of Hashem. He will be imbued with a spirit of fear for Hashem. He will not need to judge by what his eyes see, nor decide by what his ears hear, some external understanding. He will judge the destitute with righteousness and decide with fairness, etc. He will strike the wicked with the rod of his mouth, the power of speech. It's where we're a lot to talk about. But the wolf, in line number 8, verse number 8, the wolf will live with the sheep, right? The famous Gar Zevim Keves. Why do I say a lamb? A sheep is a no. A sheep is a lamb. It's the same. What? 6. Yeah.
The lamb and the sheep are the same thing.
Yeah. Okay. Usually they translate it like the wolf with the lamb. No. Anyway.
A lamb is a baby sheep.
Okay. The sheep is the plural. No, it's like the. Maybe not.
Yeah, maybe sheep is.
Sheep is. Anyway, that's how they translate it. They know English better. But nevertheless, this phenomenon of these two things: the wolf living with sheep, the leopard would lie down with the kid, and a calf, a lion will whelp, and a fatling will walk together, and a young child will lead them. All this seemingly changing of nature, of animal nature, not just humans will become normal and become good, and live only to good. They'll strive to do good and justice and truth. But even the animal kingdom will be changed to be normal, to work together. Again, once man changes and elevates his moral direction and being, so also the world goes in its step. We're the influencer on all of the other parts of the world. The spiritual and the physical don't have any free will. They have instincts and drives, natural. The animals and also the angels, they don't have any free will, ups and downs. But man is the one with the free will. They can go up or down. He can manifest that higher goal in the physical world with his body, or the body can subordinate the spirit, the intellect, to use his wisdom to do bad things, to kill people, to hurt people with using his intellect, opposite, to subordinate it to his bestial drive. That's where we come in. We have the free will. When we change, when we elevate, the world goes with us, as Chazal say. So here we see this change of nature, but even more, what I want to get to, Hebrew, it's easier. In line number 9, Lo yareu v'lo yashchitu. They will neither injure nor destroy in all of my sacred mountain. In other words, no longer will the animals, the rabbis say there, that no longer will the carnivores be killing each other, hurting each other. There's a machloket in the Sifri. The rabbis say, there's Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Yehuda says they won't be anymore. Like these carnivores won't be. They'll become extinct. Whatever. Rabbi Shimon says, no, they're going to be. Avalo yaziku. In other words, their nature will change. They will be. They'll still exist. Like it says here. It doesn't say the wolf will die. The wolf will live with the sheep. No longer will they attack each other. The nature will change. It's such a high level that the normalcy, the inner good, the truth, will permeate all. And that's what I wanted to get to. The next line, line number 9. For the earth will be filled with knowledge of Hashem as water covering the sea. Kamayim, the knowledge of God will fill the earth. Kamayim liyam achasim. So Rabbi Tzidda of Kook used to say to us, what does it mean the waters cover the sea? What is the sea made of? Water. What do you mean the water covers the water? It is water. That's the sea is. But he said that's the whole point. That the knowledge of God, it doesn't become some external. The knowledge of God fills the earth. The earth becomes this full of this vitality, this divine good. It permeates all of existence down to the earth. Like we say in Shabbat in the morning. I don't know if you have time to turn. We say in the morning, chapter 19 in Tehillim. Hashamayim misaprin kvod Hashem. You can look it up if you already have the Tanakh, if you're quick enough. 19. Hashamayim misaprin kvod El. The psalm by David. The heavens declare the glory of God. That now the heavens declare, in the spiritual sense, so to speak, in the spiritual, there you see the divine, the lofty, maybe even in the physical, the galaxies. You see the immense, the enormity, the infinite of the divine, or the creator of all that mass. Or more, also actually more the spiritual world, the heavenly, the angelic, and all these spiritual concepts and ideals. There you see the divine. In the physical, the mundane, the details, like in Torah, the details, Shabbat, Kashrut, the specifics, you don't see the divine so much. But in the future, what do we say in Yedid Nefesh, based on a verse in Yechezkel? I can find it. I think it's maybe 47. But what do we say in Yedid Nefesh? Ta'ir Aretz mikvodecha. You want to sing it? It's from the third. You have a Siddur? No, that's a Tanakh. You have a lot. It's a Siddur?
Yeah.
You have Shabbat? Yedid Nefesh. Oh, Ta'ir Eretz mikvodecha. We have someone that knows it all by heart. Ta'ir Eretz mikvodecha. The earth will be illuminated, will shine your honor. Here it says the heavens will declare your honor. In the future, the earth, what it says here, the earth will be filled, not something on top of it or whatever. The earth will be full of, the man, certainly, will be a chunk of goodness, a chunk of his inner essence is always the divine image of God, of man is this. But we don't always live according to it. We have free will. We have this obstacle that we have the choice to enable to have the choice, to enable us to have the free will and to gain the benefit of making ourselves and to make it, like the Ramchal says in the beginning of his books, of Dat Hashem and Derech Hashem, and Dat Funot, that the good that you deserve, that you earn, is much better than just giving a gift, a free gift. It's not yours. It doesn't belong to you. Somebody gives it to you. The rabbis say the poor person, it's from the Yerushalmi, Tosfot brings from the Yerushalmi. You probably heard the concept, Nahama de Kisufa. Nahama de Kisufa, have you ever heard of that? Nahama is bread in Aramaic. Bread of embarrassment. It's that the poor person is embarrassed to look in the face of he that gives him the bread, the gift. It's not his, he didn't deserve it, he didn't earn it. It's like, so it's embarrassing, it's not mine, it doesn't, you get a degree, I don't know, internet, you buy some, I don't know, Amazon, whatever, you buy a thing that says professor, rabbi, great, I don't know, something put on your wall. But it's not yours, you should be embarrassed. It's not really yours, you didn't earn it, you didn't deserve it, it's not really you. But when you work for it, you made it, you had a free will, you had the choice, and you identified with this good, and you become, then it's really yours. It's not just that it's more appreciated, but it's deeper understanding of what that means. It's not a psychological thing only, that is you appreciate what you worked for. It's also true. But it becomes, this is your aliyah. That's what God wants. He created it such a way that we have this free will. The world doesn't exhibit yet fully the divine truth, and you have free will to expose and to bring that out by your efforts. You participate with Hashem in bringing that good to the world. But nevertheless, that's the goal of Am Yisrael. But that's only fulfilled when we are in our land and living properly into our full status. And then what it says in Yeshayahu, chapter 1, chapter 2, right? The famous, if you have Yeshayahu chapter 2, I always quote it, but now you can see it inside. You all have Tanakh. Verse 3. We can start before that. Chapter 2 in Isaiah. The prophecy of Isaiah that he saw concerning Yehudah and Yerushalayim. It will happen in the end of days. We have to know this is not what's taking place today. We're in the end of days. We're living out what's finally, again, it's amazing that we're reading things that now this is what is, it's the, how do you say, the map of what's taking place. Materializing, effect. The mountain of the temple of Hashem will be firmly established at the head of the mountains. The culture of Am Yisrael and Eretz Yisrael will be this, the top of the mountains, the top of that which people look up to, the perspective, understanding, it will be exalted above the hills, and all the nations will stream to it. Again, when Am Yisrael is living with the divine presence, the Shekhinah in our midst, the almost a tangible, you could say, tangible divine presence, not a religion, a belief you like to believe. You say it'll be such this reality, and then the nations will stream to it. Will come up to the mountain, to the Yerushalayim, and many peoples will go up and say, "Come, let us go to the mountain of Hashem, to the temple of God of Yaakov, and He will teach us of His ways, and we'll walk in His path." They'll realize how that success, life becomes so full of, I don't know, meaning and significance, and this true. They'll feel this true direction of life, and they'll ask us, "How do you do it? How do you live? How do you have this nation that lives, nation in this world with government like that, politics, army, agriculture, and all of that is holy. All that is imbued with. It's not the regular life. Usually you have religion, you do your customs, and I don't know, the temple, whatever, and you have your life. But here they'll see that life is infused with godliness and the success. In other words, even the physical success, like the Kuzari says, like the whole name of the book of the Kuzari, is the defense of the despised, the despicable religion, belief. Because they don't respect it. When you, like it says in Mishlei, the wisdom of the downtrodden is not respected. When you're successful, you see, wow, now I can learn from you, see from you. But when you're not a success, when you're suffering, when you're in exile, then they can't learn from you. They can't see you as some image a role model. When Am Yisrael is living what is properly, the nations come up and show us the way. How do you do it? How do you live with technology, with all that, and using it properly doesn't turn you into destroy society and families or whatever. How do you this amazing, this successful system of holiness and like life together with the Queen of Sheba? I won't go to that. I think it's in Malachim chapter 10. With the Queen of Sheba, right? She saw in Shlomo the wisdom of Shlomo. She wanted to see how is he the wisdom. So she saw. It says there she saw the bridge between the temple and his palace. And the rabbis explain the bridge, how the connection of the physical and the spiritual, how the religion and state, how they go together. Not only go together, the successful unity and harmony of holiness and justice and truth and a successful society. Not usually it's a compromise or you have to give up on one of them. You can't be nice and moral and in this world. You have to be cruel or always fair in war. So how to live in a world and succeed in all of that with truth. She was amazed at this bridge that connects the temple and the palace of the kingdom and the church, temple and state. So too, when we live that, then they'll come up to the mountain, show us the way. How do you do it? From Zion will go out Torah and the word of Hashem from Yerushalayim. And then they'll beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. The nations will not lift sword against nation. They'll no longer study warfare. Again, not because there'll be deterrence, that you have an atom bomb, that no one wants to go to war because they're afraid of weapons of mass destruction. But no one will imagine how once people would actually hard to hurt each other, kill each other, go to war against each other. They turn their swords into plowshares because they realize that man will be just seek good, how to help others, how to be this unity, the harmony of all of man. It's a revolution of human culture. And that's where we're headed, even today, now in the stages of redemption. We're coming back to the land. We're well into what I wanted to get to, the stages, so to speak, the physical, the spiritual, as we said. How we're coming back to the physical is pretty much, we've shown our strength and our power. We have the state, the ingathering the exiles, the land giving its fruits, the state of Israel, and the victories in the wars. And now, more and more, the identity, the content, the goal, the ideal of all that. Just like in the stages when we left Egypt. First, the Yetziat Mitzrayim, the leaving of Egypt, the physical formation, the birth of the nation. The receiving of Torah was receiving the goal, the ideal, the purpose. What's your mission in this world? And then the fulfillment of coming to Eretz Yisrael. So too today, where we have time, maybe we'll get to the prophecies, how these stages of redemption are taking place, we see today. And now there's this big crisis. There's this search for the identity, to know who we are, what we're fighting for. We have the strength, we have the power, but what to do, maybe just like every other nation, we just want to be like Europe, we want to be accepted by. our goal is not just to be another nation, another flag at the UN. It's to bring to the whole world, Lataken Olam Malchut Shaddai, to bring the goal which is beyond human understanding, the beauty, the absolute, the true goal, the true purpose of all of creation, to bring that blessing to all, like it says to the fathers, right? We just read in Breshit over and over again, all the father, Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, and that all the nations and the families of the world will be blessed through you, to bring this blessing, this absolute good. And after us, they blame that we're this obstacle to peace in the world, destroying it. Because the negative forces that's realized that are coming back to the land, the success in the land is their end, so to speak. The end of not of the nations, the end of the evil, the end of the corruption, the end of the bestiality of mankind. And that's what fuels this threat. And as we succeed more and more, there's these, it says the forces of bad try to get stronger and stronger, like the light, the candle that flickers more before it goes out. So they're trying to amass their forces together to try to hold up this final thing. But again, nothing will hold it up because it's not a human goal. It's not some man-made that we decided we're coming back to Israel. And God is fulfilling and bringing back the whole purpose of creation. Like he said, to establish this nation in order to bring that goal. Rav Yaakov Emden, in the Sidur, on the Birkat HaMazon, I'll read it to you. We say in Birkat HaMazon, in the second paragraph, Nodeh lecha, Shem Elokeinu, al she'inchalta l'avotenu l'eretz chemdat u'archova, she'hotzitanu me'eretz Mitzrayim, titanu bebeit avadim. In English, God, we thank you, God, that you've inherited us to our fathers the cherished land, the good and cherished land. You took us out of Egypt and took us out of the slavery, the house of slavery, house of slaves, and all the Torah that you gave us. So what's the order here? It says, we thank God for the land of Israel, taking us out of Egypt and giving the Torah. What's the question here about the order? That's not how it took place, right? First we left Egypt, then we got the Torah, then we came there to Israel. Rav Yaakov Emden, and his Sidur, I should have brought it, he asks that question. And he says the blessing here is not on or in chronological order, the way the things took place historically, but rather the order of the goal. In his words, Netinat haaretz kadma bebchinat tachlit, the proceeding of the land, right? The first thing we thank God is for the land of Israel. That, he says, is the tachlit. What's the tachlit? The purpose. That's the goal of it all. He starts with the goal, like it says also. Before we got the Ten Commandments, God first showed you where you're going. You are going to be a kingdom of priests and holy nation. Until that takes place, it's going to take a few years in history. But that's the goal. First, I tell you where the goal is. And now, set out. Now you start the road to get there. You start climbing the ladder. But first it's presented, so too here, the Rav Yaakov Emden says, first he expressed to us what is the goal. That I will take you out, like he brings the verse in Shemot, this week's chapter, 17. I will take you out of the poverty of Egypt, El Eretz HaKnani, to the land of Israel. And that's the goal. The ideal is to get there. So chronologically, it didn't take place that way. Again, we started with the leaving of Egypt, getting the Torah. But the goal of all that is to get to Eretz Yisrael, because only here can we fully manifest that goal, that ideal of being that kingdom of priests and holy nation, as we learned about throughout the year and will continue. Of the Torah is only in its fullness. It's a manifestation of godliness upon the Jewish people. The Shekhinah is only revealed to the Jewish people in the land of Israel. The exile also, Rav Druckmann points out, the exile also has two stages. Just like we said, the redemption is the physical and spiritual redemption, so too the exile has two aspects. One can be in the exile, let's say the beginning, the beginning of exile, one goes into slavery, whatever, subordination to someone else. So the beginning, his body is now enslaved. But his soul, his spirit is still free. He's still a free person. He's a radical. He knows who he is. He wants to get out of there and realizes he doesn't belong here. But his body, he can't do what he wants to. But his spirit is still free. And therefore, the minute the shackles are released, he goes back to his freedom and returns to what he was normally, to be a free person. So, but ultimately, not ultimately, as time goes on in this state of servitude, he becomes not only the physical body becomes enslaved, but the mind, the spirit, he gets used to being a slave. It becomes this internal slavery. The external slavery is easier. He can put shackles on his arms. He can't do what he wants to do, but he's, again, a fighting spirit inside. He's free. Like they say, right? You can have a slave, how do you say, a person that is not free, but his spirit is free, and you can have a person that is free walking around in the street, but he's a slave to other things, to his low animal desires, whatever. He's a slave. So a person usually, after a certain amount of time, the nation, people, become even this internal slavery. As the Ibn Ezra writes, later we'll see, actually in chapter 14, on the verse, chapter 14, if you have an Exodus, in Parshat, in Beshalach, chapter 14, verse 13. It says the Jews, the Egyptians pursued them, chased after them. The Jews encamped by the sea, and all the horses and chariots and following, etc. And it says the Jews started crying to Hashem, "What'd you do? You took us out of Egypt. There's no graves there. You took us out to die in the wilderness. What's going on?" Again, it looks like things are lost, worse than it was. What did we escape for? Just to die here? We told you, they say to Moshe. We told you in Egypt, saying, let us be, and we will serve. Right? Chapter 14, verse, I'm now reading verse 12, now 13. He said, we should have served in Egypt, rather than to die in the desert. And Moshe said to the people, don't fear. Stand fast and see the salvation of Hashem that He'll perform for you today. Just like you see Egypt today, they seem to be strong, whatever, you'll never see them again. God will do battle for you and you shall remain silent. And then the miracle, right, the splitting of the Red Sea. The Ibn Ezra asks here, that the Jews were 600,000 men, how do you say, bodily able soldiers, so to speak, besides women and children, a few million. There were a few, how many were there that chased them? 600 elite chariots, etc. Beseder, but 600 they outnumbered them totally. The Jews totally outnumbered them. They could have. He asks, why didn't they turn and fight for their lives? Asks the Ibn Ezra, the classic commentator on the Torah. So he says, because the Egyptians were their masters.
Slave mentality.
Okay, and this was a generation that left Egypt. They knew from their youth to suffer the yoke of the Egyptians. And v'nafsho shfela, they had a lowly soul, what you said. Slave mentality, galut mentality. They didn't even think. A slave, how can you have a slave? How can one master have, 50 slaves? They should, in the room behind there, let's look, we're 50 of us, one of him. Why don't we just jump on him and then end this whole slavery, whatever? They don't even think about that. Slave mentality, becomes this mentality of what the psychologists call learned helplessness. Once I brought you the article, he came to visit Israel, Eugene Leibowitz. Anyway, during the Holocaust, they jumped from a few trains and they were caught in the forest. They gathered them up in this room, 90 of them, and one German with his thing, and they had them all sitting down and shooting one by one until his savage he walked out of the room and he came, I'll be back. And he says, till this day it haunts me. He writes, it still haunts me that why we were, again, 90, I don't know how many were in the room, and we're just sitting there. We know that, again, the future was bleak. He's going one by one and shooting in the back of their heads. Why didn't we just get up and, he says he couldn't understand it about himself. We just sat there. But again, we talked about the psychology, there's this learned helplessness. You're so trained in what they did to it, to take away their freedom, their mindset. They didn't even think of it. What the Ibn Ezra says here long way before Martin Seligman, that made that theory of explanation of learned helplessness about the dogs and the thing. They could get a shock, and each time They get the food. They do, I don't know, they lift up a gate, have to do something to get the food. So they get used to, learn Pavlov. They learn to do that, and then all of a sudden they get shocked. Every time they try, so they keep getting the shock. Now they don't even try anymore. They just sit there and starve to whatever, because they learn it already, learn helplessness. They get so trained, so to speak, not even to try, because up till now the attempts were futile. So even when they do get the chance at the table, they don't even try anymore. Anyway, the Ibn Ezra says this long time ago, that the Jews were trained from youth, got so used to being the slave mentality. And now how could they rise up and fight their master? Again, it doesn't go by logic. What do you mean, 90 of us, one of them? It doesn't go. Here they were outnumbered them by sheer numbers, whatever. But this mentality, the nafsho shfila, the psychology, the soul, the spirit was numbed, and Israel therefore were weak and weren't able to go up and even to think of fighting them. Have you saw that movie, the Sobibor, what's it called, the Uprising of Sobibor? It was a book, and they made it into a movie. Also, the same thing. The Jews who got there was a guy who, two people, the Russian captive and one of the Jews, that they had still the mentality of, what do you mean? We have to make a revolution. We have to try to get out of this or whatever. So they had to say they made weapons and guns. Anyway, they succeeded, so to speak. They shot the guard up there, whatever. The gates were open, and the Jews were in the roll call. They just stood there. They told them, go. You have, and they stood. They didn't get the order yet because they were trained, so to speak. Not over 100, 200 years. They knew how to train them to take away this and give them numbers and all human beings, whatever. And they didn't move. They didn't get the order yet. They didn't move yet. The gates are open now. Run. You only have a few more minutes. So this is the Galut mentality, the exile, which also Pollard said. Remember Pollard, when he got out, he said his wife told him that you have to become Jewish, whatever. He says it's easier to take the Jew out of the exile than it is to take the exile out of the Jew. And that's, again, we're still with that. We have what they call conceptia. We have certain conceptions. We have to awaken to our true essence, understanding the greatness, the grandeur of our mission and the truth of our reality, who we are, what we're doing in the land of Israel. And that takes time. It's not a nation doesn't wake up. If a person can't do it immediately, develops over time, the adolescence, the adulthood. So a nation takes a while till it comes back to its true identity understanding. And that's what we're in now, the stages of the return from the physical redemption. Like it says in Yechezkel 37, first the physical redemption, the body comes back, the bones, and gather the exiles, and then there's no spirits, there's no inner content of what we are. And then the second stage is the returning to the awareness of who we are, what we are. That's what we're trying to learn, because if we don't do it the easy way, by our own understanding and learning and awareness, then not that it won't be, it has to be. We have to come back to ourselves. And then it comes back by certain external catalysts, so to speak, that wake you up and force you, history, reality. You can't stay where you are. The child can't stay in the comfortable womb, it's warm in the womb. There's forces that facilitate the contractions that you also mentioned, and that force out and develop the next stage. So too in history, we're living through the different difficulties now that to force us to come back to who we really are, the beauty, the grandeur. It's not a punishment, it's to bring us back to, it's one of the divine mechanisms. So even when you think we're going backwards and things are not going the right way, these are part of the process that brings ultimately to the bigger, this future, amazing future of changing of mankind, the elevation of all creation, tikkun olam malchut shaddai, the beating their swords into plowshares, that man will be good, just living goodness and just divineness and divinity, which what is divine, the fullness of God's name, of the good will permeate all the world. B'ezrat Hashem, b'mirav b'yameinu, soon in our days.